The invitation arrived on an encrypted channel that should have been impossible to trace. Ambassador Elena Torres had been staring at the holographic message for 3 hours, long enough for the synthetic light to leave ghost images on her retinas. The words had not changed. Neither had her suspicion. People of Earth. The Galactic Imperium extends its hand in fellowship. Your species has demonstrated remarkable resilience. We invite you to join our ancient alliance. Peace, prosperity, protection. Send your delegation to the neutral world of Caldoran. We await. Signed, High Imperator Vex, ruler of the Imperium. Elena turned to her AI assistant. Kale. Pull every record of Imperium first contact with other species. Every single one. Processing. Ambassador. Warning, Imperium information restrictions limit access to complete historical data. Show me what you have. The office wall transformed into a massive display. A timeline materialized. Centuries of Imperium expansion. Elena's breath caught as patterns emerged. Every civilization the Imperium had welcomed followed the same arc: initial prosperity, gradual resource depletion, economic dependence, military occupation disguised as protection. Then silence. The species vanished from galactic records, absorbed into the Imperium's ever-growing machine. Her door chimed. Enter. Admiral Marcus Webb strode in, his weathered face grim. He gestured at the timeline. You've seen it too. They're not looking for allies, Elena said. They're looking for vassals. The Joint Chiefs meet in an hour. What's your recommendation? Elena stood, smoothing her diplomatic uniform. We accept their invitation. Webb's eyebrows shot up. You can't be serious. A slight smile played at the corner of her mouth. Oh, I'm very serious. But we accept on our terms, not theirs. And while we're smiling and negotiating, we prepare. Prepare for what? For the moment they realize humanity isn't as naive as they think. She turned to the window. Ships from a dozen Earth nations moved through the atmosphere like silverfish. 2 centuries, Admiral. 2 centuries of being ignored by the galactic community. 2 centuries of building our strength, developing our technology, learning to stand united. Webb moved beside her. The Imperium's fleet is vast. If this goes wrong, that's exactly what we're counting on. Elena activated her secure comm. They expect us to either reject their offer and remain isolated, or accept it and slowly submit. They don't expect us to have a third option. Which is to show up with everything we have. She keyed the authorization code. Across the solar system, hidden facilities hummed to life. In asteroid bases and underground bunkers, ships that officially didn't exist began powering up. 2 centuries of paranoid preparation were about to pay off. Send our response, she ordered. Tell them Earth is honored by their invitation. Tell them we will send a delegation to Caldoran. As the message transmitted across light years, Elena turned back to Webb. Admiral, how long until the 7th Fleet can be ready? The official 7th Fleet? 2 weeks. The real one? Webb's expression shifted. A slow smile spread across his face. It's been ready for years. Elena nodded. In the darkness of her office, she allowed herself a small, cold smile. The Imperium thought they were inviting sheep to the slaughter. They had no idea they were about to shake hands with a wolf. The game was about to begin. And humanity had spent 2 centuries learning how to win. The Imperium's diplomatic vessel emerged from warp with the subtlety of a thunderstorm. Its hull gleamed, polished obsidian etched with gold, a deliberate display of wealth and power that made Elena's diplomatic instincts scream trap. She watched from the observation deck of the EDS Valiant, Earth's premier diplomatic carrier, as the alien ship approached. Ambassador, Lieutenant Maya Chen reported from her station. They're scanning us. Deep penetration. Military-grade protocols. Let them look, Elena said. They'll only see what we want them to see. Decades of deception technology had prepared for this moment. The Imperium scans would reveal an Earth that was technologically impressive enough to be interesting, but not advanced enough to be threatening. A useful puppet, not a rival. The main view screen flickered. High Imperator Vex appeared, 7 feet of scaled muscle, 4 amber eyes set into a wedge-shaped head, mandibles clicking in what their xenologists claimed was a gesture of greeting. Ambassador Torres. The Imperium is honored. The honor is ours, High Imperator. Elena bowed precisely. Not too deep, not too shallow. Perfect. Earth awaits the opportunity to learn from your vast experience. As the formal greetings continued, Elena's neural implant buzzed with encrypted updates. Hidden sensors near Jupiter had detected 3 cloaked Imperium warships conducting detailed surveys of Earth's orbital defenses. Near Mars, their probes were mapping mining operations. They were preparing for something. You must understand, Vex continued, his tone shifting toward condescension, the Imperium's protection comes with certain requirements. We would need to establish permanent advisory positions in your government, military bases for your defense, and full access to your industrial capacity. There it is. Elena kept her expression warm. That's a generous offer. Though I admit, the speed of integration concerns me. Surely a more gradual approach. Ambassador. Vex interrupted, mandibles clicking faster. The galaxy is dangerous. We would hate to see Earth left vulnerable. The velvet glove over the iron fist. Elena's implant buzzed again. The cloaked Imperium ships had moved into attack positions, hidden from conventional detection, but not from humanity's quantum arrays. They were preparing for military action if diplomacy failed. I understand completely, Elena said, allowing relief to color her voice. Earth would never want to appear ungrateful. Vex relaxed visibly. Excellent. We can begin implementing the first phase immediately. Elena's warm mask fell away. Before we proceed, High Imperator, I wonder if you might clarify something. She gestured. The view screen shifted to show a holographic map of the solar system, including the precise positions of every cloaked Imperium vessel. Vex scales lost their luster. I don't understand. There must be a mistake. No mistake. We've been tracking your ships since they entered our system. Elena's voice hardened. Now, shall we discuss the real terms of our relationship? The ones that don't involve Earth becoming another conquest. Vex's mandibles clacked in agitation. You dare. We dare quite a lot, actually. Elena interrupted. And you're about to find out exactly how much. On the tactical display, the Imperium ships began powering their weapons. But Elena didn't flinch. Everything was proceeding as planned. The real question wasn't whether humanity could fight. The question was whether the Imperium would realize they were surrounded before it was too late. Deep within the asteroid belt, in a hollowed-out facility that officially didn't exist, Admiral Marcus Webb stood in the command center of humanity's true fleet. Hundreds of stealth vessels powered up around him. Status report, he commanded. Shadow Fleet at 99% readiness, sir. Commander Diana Rodriguez's voice was steady. All ships maintaining quantum stealth. Imperium sensors are blind to us. Webb watched the tactical display showing the Imperium's fleet tightening their formation around Earth. The arrogance was breathtaking. 3 advanced warships against what they believed was a primitive civilization. Ambassador Chen has initiated contact, Rodriguez announced. The High Imperator has rejected our terms for equal partnership. They're moving to their backup plan. Webb allowed himself a grim smile. Right on schedule. Begin Operation Phantom. All ships, weapons hot. Maintain stealth until my mark. The Shadow Fleet began to move, hundreds of vessels sliding through space like ghosts, surrounding the Imperium ships from angles their sensors couldn't perceive. On the diplomatic channel, Vex's voice dripped with fury. Ambassador Torres, your defiance is foolish. Accept our terms now, or face the consequences. Elena's response was calm, almost amused. High Imperator, I don't think you understand. We're not refusing your terms out of arrogance. Then why? Because we have better options. She paused. And because your ships are already surrounded. Vex laughed. Impossible. Our sensors show. Show you what we want them to show. Elena cut him off. Admiral Webb, if you would. The space around the Imperium's flagship shimmered. Hundreds of human warships dropped their stealth fields simultaneously, appearing from empty void like hunters emerging from tall grass. The High Imperator's laughter died in his throat. The human fleet opened fire. The first volley was not designed to destroy. It was designed to blind. Quantum torpedoes streaked across the void, detonating in precise patterns that saturated the Imperium sensors with cascading electromagnetic interference. On the bridge of the EDS Valiant, Elena watched the tactical display as the alien warship's targeting systems flickered and died. Phase 1 complete, Lieutenant Chen reported. Imperium vessels are temporarily blind. They're scrambling to restore sensor function. Phase 2, Elena ordered. From the asteroid belt, humanity's Shadow Fleet launched its second wave. Not weapons, drones. Thousands of small, fast-moving craft that swarmed the Imperium ships like locusts, latching onto their hulls and injecting decryption algorithms directly into their external systems. What are they doing? High Imperator Vex's voice crackled through the compromised diplomatic channel. His composure had cracked. This is not what you expected. Elena finished. Did you think we'd simply roll over? Show our fleet and let you have a fair fight. On the main screen, Vex's scales had gone dull. His 4 amber eyes darted between his own failing displays and the human ships surrounding him. Fair fights are for people who haven't spent 2 centuries preparing for invasion, Elena continued. We're not interested in fair. We're interested in victory. Admiral, Commander Rodriguez reported from the Shadow Fleet Command Center. Decryption is complete. We have full access to their tactical networks. Their fleet coordination is ours. Admiral Webb studied the flood of data, Imperium ship positions, weapon statuses, crew deployments, even personal communications. Every secret they had tried to keep was now laid bare. They're scared, Rodriguez observed. Their internal channels are pure chaos. They didn't plan for this. No one ever plans to be the prey, Webb said. Send the signal. Phase 3. Humanity's fleet shifted formation. The ships that had been holding a defensive perimeter around Earth began to move, not toward the Imperium, but through them. Precision formations that exploited gaps in the alien formation that the Imperium's own commanders hadn't known existed. What are you doing? Vex demanded. These maneuvers, you're anticipating our movements before we make them. Of course we are. Elena's voice was cold. We've been inside your tactical networks for 11 minutes. We know where every ship will be before your admirals give the orders. We know your weapon charge cycles, your shield regeneration patterns, your emergency protocols. We know everything. On the Imperium flagship, Vex watched in horror as his fleet's carefully arranged formation dissolved into chaos. Human ships moved through them like water through cracks in a dam, never firing the killing blow, but dismantling their cohesion piece by piece. This isn't war, one of his officers whispered. This is surgery. Vex's claws dug into his command chair. Ambassador Torres, what do you want? We already told you, Elena replied. Equal partnership. A seat at the table. Not as vassals. Not as protectorate. As equals. That's impossible. The Imperium has never faced humanity, Elena interrupted. And you're about to learn why that matters. On her order, a single human ship, the EDS Intrepid, a vessel so new it didn't appear in any Imperium database, moved directly toward Vex's flagship. Its weapons remained cold. Its shields remained down. But its approach was absolute, unflinching, inevitable. Destroy it, Vex ordered. His weapons officers tried. Their targeting systems refused to lock. Their weapons refused to charge. The decryption drones had done their work too well. High Imperator, a trembling officer reported. We've lost control of our weapon systems. They're not responding. The Intrepid pulled alongside the Imperium flagship, close enough that Vex could see its hull markings through his viewport. Close enough that he could see the human crew standing at attention inside. An alert flashed on his console. A direct transmission. Not to the ship. To him. Personally. He opened it. Admiral Webb's face filled his private screen. Behind Webb, the Shadow Fleet hung in the void, hundreds of warships, all with weapons trained on the Imperium flagship. "High Imperator," Webb said. "You have 10 seconds to stand down and order your fleet to disarm. After that, we stop being polite." Vex stared at the human admiral's calm expression. He had come here expecting to conquer a primitive species. Instead, he had walked into a trap that had been 2 centuries in the making. "Your species," he managed. "You're not primitive at all, are you?" "We're not anything you expected us to be," Webb replied. "That's the point." Vex looked at his shattered tactical display, at the human ships surrounding him, at the impossible reality that his empire had finally met its match. He made his decision. All Imperium vessels, stand down. Weapons cold. Shields down. He turned back to Webb. "Now what?" "Now," Elena Torres said, appearing beside Webb on the screen, "we talk. Not as conqueror and conquered. As equals. For the first time in Imperium history." Outside, the human fleet held its position. Weapons primed. Patient. Watchful. The Imperium's age of uncontested expansion had just ended. And humanity had fired the first shot, not a weapon, but a warning. The galaxy would never be the same. The silence on the Imperium flagship lasted 7 minutes. Admiral Webb counted each second. On his tactical display, the alien vessels remained motionless, weapons cold, shields down, exactly as ordered. But Webb had spent 40 years in military service. He knew that silence could mean surrender. It could also mean regrouping. "Commander Rodriguez," he said quietly. "Status on the decryption drones. Full network access maintained. Their command channels are quiet, but I'm detecting increased activity on their engineering frequencies." "Engineering?" Elena's voice came through the quantum comm. Her face appeared on Webb's secondary screen, still aboard the Valiant. "What are they doing?" Rodriguez frowned at her readings. "Running diagnostics. Full system checks. They're not preparing to fight, they're taking inventory of what they lost." "They're assessing their wounds," Webb translated. "Deciding if they can afford to keep fighting. Or if they can afford to come back later," Elena added. "The Imperium has a long memory. They've retreated before. They've never forgiven a retreat." Vex's face reappeared on the main screen. His scales had regained some of their luster, not the vibrant gold of confidence, but the dull bronze of calculation. "Ambassador Torres." "Admiral Webb." He inclined his head, the closest thing to a bow his species performed. "You have made your point. Your military capabilities exceed our projections. Significantly." "That's not an answer," Elena said. "Are you accepting our terms?" Vex's mandibles clicked slowly. Thinking. Weighing. "The Imperium does not negotiate with species weaker than you. We know. But we're not weaker. And you know that too. Your fleet is intact, but it's also surrounded. Your weapons are offline, and you don't know how to bring them back online without our permission. You're not in a position to dictate terms." The High Imperator's scales flickered, anger barely suppressed. But he didn't deny it. "What do you propose?" Elena exchanged a glance with Webb. This was the moment. The reason humanity had spent 2 centuries preparing, not just building weapons, but building options. Earth joins the Imperium as a full partner. Not a protectorate. Not a vassal. Equal voting rights in your council. Equal access to your technology. Equal say in your expansion policies. Vex's mandibles stopped moving. "That's unprecedented. The Imperium has never faced a species capable of dismantling your fleet without firing a killing shot," Elena replied. "That's also unprecedented. Unprecedented situations require unprecedented solutions. And if we refuse?" Webb answered. "Then you leave. You take your fleet home. You tell your council that Earth is off-limits. And you spend the next decade wondering if we'll come for you." Vex's 4 amber eyes narrowed. "That sounds like a threat." "It's not a threat." Elena's voice softened. "It's a statement of fact. We don't want to conquer the Imperium. We don't want to destroy it. We want a seat at the table. That's all we've ever wanted. But we've learned that wishes don't come true unless you're willing to fight for them." On the tactical display, Commander Rodriguez noted a change. "Admiral, the Imperium ships are powering up their primary reactors. Not weapons, reactors. They're preparing for FTL. They're leaving," Webb said. "No." Elena's eyes never left Vex's face. "They're thinking. Give them space." The seconds stretched. On the Valiant, Lieutenant Chen held her breath. On the Shadow Fleet's command deck, Rodriguez watched her sensors like a hawk. And on the Imperium flagship, High Imperator Vex made a decision that would reshape the galaxy. "Your proposal," he said slowly, "will require approval from the Imperium Council. That will take time. Weeks, perhaps. There will be debate. Opposition. Factions who would rather fight than share power." "I understand," Elena said. "We've had our own debates. Our own opposition. Our own factions. But you're here anyway." "We're here because the alternative is watching our children fight your children for the next 1,000 years. And we've done enough fighting." She paused. "We'd like to try something else." Vex studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he extended his hand, clawed, scaled, alien, toward the screen. A human gesture. One he had learned. "Then let us try," he said. The Imperium fleet turned. Not in retreat, in formation. They did not flee. They withdrew with dignity, maintaining their tactical cohesion even in departure. The human fleet held position, watching them go. On the Valiant bridge, Lieutenant Chen let out a breath. "They're gone." "No," Elena said. "They're not gone. They're going to think about what happened here. And then they're going to come back, not with weapons, with questions." She turned to Webb's image on her screen. "Admiral, stand down the Shadow Fleet. But keep them ready." "For how long?" Elena smiled, not the diplomatic smile, the real one. "However long it takes. We've waited 2 centuries. We can wait a little longer." Outside, the stars turned. The Imperium fleet vanished into warp. And humanity's true fleet, hidden, patient, deadly, slipped back into the shadows from which it had come. The war hadn't been fought. Not today. But the warning had been delivered. And somewhere in the depths of Imperium space, the Council was already arguing about what to do next. Elena poured herself a cup of coffee. It was cold. She drank it anyway. The real work was just beginning. The Imperium Council deliberated for 11 standard days. On the 12th, a message arrived at Earth, not a declaration, not a demand, but an invitation. High Imperator Vex requested a formal delegation to negotiate the terms of Earth's admission to the Imperium. Not as a protectorate. As a full partner. Elena Torres read the message 3 times before she allowed herself to believe it. "They're serious," Admiral Webb said from her office doorway. He had flown in from the Shadow Fleet's hidden base, still wearing his duty uniform. "We checked the authentication codes. It's legitimate." Vex convinced the Council. "How?" He showed them the battle recordings. Our fleet appearing from nowhere. Our ships dismantling their formation without firing a kill shot. Then he showed them our proposal again, equal partnership, shared technology, mutual defense. Webb paused. And he told them that if they refused, the next time we wouldn't hold back. Elena set down the message. He bluffed. He told the truth. The Council just didn't know that the truth was a bluff. Webb allowed himself a rare smile. Sometimes the line is thinner than we think. The negotiations took 6 months. Not because either side wanted to delay, because building something new always takes longer than destroying something old. Elena led Earth's delegation. Vex led the Imperium's. They argued about trade routes and military basing rights and the exact wording of every clause. They shouted. They stormed out. They came back. And slowly, painfully, they built. The Treaty of Sol was signed on a neutral space station orbiting an empty star. Representatives from 100 Imperium member worlds watched as Elena Torres and High Imperator Vex placed their names on the document. It was not a peace treaty, there had been no war. It was not a surrender, neither side had knelt. It was an agreement, a promise, a beginning. "The galaxy will not change overnight," Elena said in her closing address. There are those who will call this treaty a betrayal. Those who will say we should have conquered the Imperium instead of joining it. Those who will say we should have remained isolated, hidden in our corner of space, trusting no one. She paused, looking out at the assembly, at the alien faces that had once viewed humanity as prey. But we did not spend 2 centuries preparing for this moment just to trade one form of isolation for another. We prepared so that we could choose. Not from fear. From strength. High Imperator Vex rose beside her. His scales had regained their gold, not the aggressive gleam of a predator, but the steady shine of a leader who had learned something hard. Humanity has taught us, he said, that power is not the ability to destroy. It is the ability to build something that cannot be destroyed. Today, we begin building. The assembly applauded. Not with enthusiasm, with the cautious hope of beings who had seen too many promises broken. But they applauded. Afterward, Elena stood alone at the station's observation window, watching Earth hang in the distance, a blue pearl against the black. Admiral Webb joined her. "You did it," he said. "We did it," she corrected. "Now what?" Elena thought about the question. About the centuries of preparation that had led to this moment. About the ships still hidden in the asteroid belt, ready to defend humanity if the treaty failed. About the young diplomats now training to represent Earth on 1,000 worlds. "Now we prove that we deserve the trust we've been given," she said. "Now we show the galaxy that humanity is more than just good at war. Now we build." Webb nodded. "No pressure." Elena laughed, a real laugh, the kind she hadn't allowed herself in months. "Admiral, we've spent 2 centuries preparing for the worst. It's time we started hoping for the best." Outside, the stars were exactly where they had always been. Nothing had changed out there. Everything had changed down here. The Treaty of Soul held. Not perfectly, nothing perfect ever holds, but it held. The Imperium reformed itself from within, pressured by Earth's insistence on transparency and equal voice. Member worlds that had been silent for centuries found their voices. Trade flourished. Technology spread. And humanity, once hidden and afraid, stepped into the light. Elena Torres retired 5 years later. She moved to a small house by the sea, grew vegetables, and watched the ships depart Earth's orbit, not warships, but freighters. Explorers. Diplomats. The ordinary traffic of a civilization that had finally found its place among the stars. She kept a framed copy of the treaty on her mantle. Beside it, a photograph of Admiral Webb, who had passed away the previous year. And next to that, a small plaque with the words she had spoken on the day everything changed. We did not spend 2 centuries preparing for this moment just to trade one form of isolation for another. Sometimes, late at night, she would walk to the shore and look up at the stars. They did not look different. They did not need to. She knew what was out there now. Friends. Partners. A galaxy still learning, still growing, still reaching. And humanity, after all that waiting, was finally reaching with them. The story did not end with the treaty. Stories never end. But the chapter of fear, of hiding, of preparing for the worst, that chapter closed on a space station orbiting an empty star, with the scratch of a pen and the applause of 100 worlds. Elena smiled at the memory. Then she turned and walked back to her house, where the tea was warm and the vegetables needed watering and the future was unwritten. The galaxy had changed. So had she. And somewhere out there, High Imperator Vex was probably drinking something equally warm, looking at the same stars, thinking the same thoughts. They had not become friends. Not exactly. But they had become partners. That was enough. That was everything. The treaty was signed 17 years ago. Elena Torres is 73 now. She lives in the same small house by the sea, grows the same vegetables, watches the same stars. But the stars are not the same. They never were. She just sees them differently now. The Imperium Council meets quarterly on the neutral space station. Elena stopped attending 5 years ago. Younger diplomats fill her seat, men and women who were children when humanity revealed its hidden fleet, who grew up in a galaxy where Earth had a voice. They do not remember the fear. They do not need to. That was the point. Admiral Webb's granddaughter commands the Shadow Fleet now. It is not a shadow anymore. The ships patrol Imperium space openly, alongside vessels from a dozen species that once viewed humanity as prey. They fly together. They train together. They trust each other, not completely, not yet, but more every year. High Imperator Vex retired last season. His successor is a female named Thalra, younger, sharper, without her predecessor's scars. She sent Elena a personal message after the appointment ceremony. 7 words, "Your species taught us to listen. We are trying." Elena kept the message. She keeps all of them, in a box on her mantle, next to the framed treaty and the photograph of Webb. Sometimes, when the sea is rough and the wind is cold, she takes them out and reads through them. The first warnings. The battle plans. The ceasefire agreement. The treaty. The invitations to speak at Imperium academies. The letters from young aliens who say humanity inspired them to become diplomats. She does not cry. She is past crying. But she smiles. She always smiles. Last year, a delegation from the Outer Rim came to Earth. Species the Imperium had ignored for centuries, too small to matter, too distant to conquer. They had heard about humanity, the species that said no and meant it. They wanted to know if Earth would help them find their own voice. Elena introduced them to her successor, a woman named Priya Kaur, 41 years old, sharp as a blade, patient as stone. Priya listened to their concerns for 6 hours. Then she outlined a plan. Trade routes. Cultural exchanges. A mutual defense agreement. Nothing like the Imperium's old protectorate system. Something new. Something equal. The Outer Rim delegation left smiling. Priya called Elena that night. "They asked if we would ever abandon them," Priya said. "Like the Imperium abandoned their ancestors." "What did you tell them?" "I told them that humanity spent 2 centuries preparing for the worst because we couldn't trust anyone. We don't want anyone else to have to do the same. We'll stay as long as they need us." Elena nodded, even though Priya couldn't see her. "Good answer." Today, Elena is sitting on her porch. The sun is setting over the water. A glass of cold tea rests on the arm of her chair. She is not thinking about the treaty or the battle or the centuries of preparation. She is thinking about her granddaughter, 16 years old, studying at the Imperial Academy on the neutral station, making friends with aliens Elena will never meet. Her granddaughter sent a message this morning. She said she had been elected to the student council. She said her roommate was a Drakkar, and they stayed up too late arguing about philosophy. She said she was happy. Happy. Elena turns the word over in her mind. It feels foreign. Not because she has never been happy, because she spent so long preparing for disaster that she forgot happiness was the point of preparing. Her granddaughter has not forgotten. None of the young ones have. They grew up in a galaxy where Earth was strong, where Earth was respected, where Earth was safe. That is the legacy. Not the ships. Not the weapons. Not the treaty. The safety. The freedom to be happy without watching the stars for incoming fire. Elena finishes her tea. The sun dips below the horizon. The first stars appear. She does not flinch. She does not calculate trajectories or defensive postures or evacuation protocols. She watches them the way her granddaughter watches them, with wonder. Thank you, she thinks, to no one and everyone. Thank you for letting us finally stop being afraid. The stars do not answer. They never do. But for the first time in her life, Elena does not need them to. She has done her work. Her children have done theirs. Her grandchildren will do better. That is what surviving means. Not never being afraid. Being afraid and building something anyway. The porch is dark now. The house is quiet. Elena goes inside, washes her cup, and walks to her bedroom. On the wall hangs a small plaque. The words she spoke on the day everything changed. We did not spend 2 centuries preparing for this moment just to trade one form of isolation for another. She touches the plaque. Then she turns off the light and sleeps. Outside, the galaxy turns. The Imperium deliberates. The Outer Rim reaches out. And humanity, once hidden, once afraid, once alone, keeps building. Not a weapon. A future. That is the only war worth fighting. That is the only victory worth claiming. And Elena Torres, who started it all with a single invitation and a quiet smile, rests easy. She earned it. They all did.